Some stories do not begin with noise. They begin with stillness, with something quietly waiting to be seen. On a small dusty roadside where cars passed without slowing, there was a dog who had made a place for himself. Not because he belonged there, but because he had nowhere else to go. Day after day, he returned to the same spot. He did not wander far. He did not chase anyone. He simply sat and waited. People noticed him, but only for a moment. A glance, then they moved on. Life is often too busy for quiet things. But some waiting is not empty. Some waiting carries memory, hope, and something unspoken. It would take time before anyone truly saw him, and when they finally did, they would realize that he had not been waiting without reason. The road was never completely silent. Even in the early hours, there were distant sounds, tires rolling over uneven ground, a motorbike passing too quickly, wind brushing lightly against dry leaves. But in one small corner, just beside a broken curb, there was stillness. That was where he sat. The dog did not move much. His body was thin, his fur uneven and dull in places, as if time had slowly taken pieces of it away. One of his ears bent slightly forward, never quite lifting the way it should. He did not look at every passing car, only some, as if he was searching but not expecting. People walked by him often. Some slowed for a second. Most did not. A few children pointed, whispering softly before being pulled along. He never followed them. He stayed where he was. There was something unusual about that. Most stray dogs moved constantly, searching for food, for shelter, for anything that might keep them going another day. But not him. He had chosen this place. Or maybe this place had chosen him. The sun rose slowly, casting longer light across the road. The shadows shifted, stretching and shrinking as the morning moved forward. Still, he remained. Occasionally, he would adjust his position, a small movement, a quiet breath. His eyes would close for a moment, then open again. Watching, waiting. No one knew how long he had been there. But it was clear, he was not just passing through, and somewhere in that stillness, there was a reason. A reason no one had taken the time to understand. Not yet, no one knew his name. But there was a time when he had one. It had been spoken gently, often with warmth. A sound he used to recognize from across a room, a call that meant food, or a walk, or simply the comfort of not being alone. That time felt very far away now. The neighborhood he once belonged to was not far from the road where he now sat, just a few streets behind, where houses stood close together and small yards held traces of ordinary life. He had once belonged there, not in a perfect way, but in a way that was enough. There had been a man, quiet, tired most days, but kind in small, consistent ways, the kind of kindness that did not ask for attention. The dog had learned his routines, morning footsteps, the sound of a door opening, evenings that carried the smell of food, long pauses where nothing happened, but everything still felt safe. Time moved gently in those days, but life does not always stay the same. One day, the routine broke. The door did not open. The footsteps did not come. The house remained closed longer than it ever had before. At first, the dog waited outside, as he always did, patient, certain that the familiar rhythm would return, but it didn't. Hours passed, then a full day. Voices came, but not the one he knew. Strangers entered. They moved quickly. They spoke in tones that felt different, not unkind, but distant. The dog watched from a small distance, unsure. No one called his name. No one told him what had changed. And sometimes, silence says more than words. The next morning, the house was empty. The yard felt unfamiliar, and the space that once held meaning no longer did. He walked away slowly, not because he wanted to, but because there was nothing left to wait for there. He moved through streets that felt both known and strange, the same paths but without purpose now. Days passed like that, searching but not knowing for what. Until one day, he reached the road. And something about that corner made him stop. Maybe it was the view, maybe it was the feeling, or maybe it reminded him of waiting. So he stayed. She had passed that road many times before. It was part of her daily routine. A simple path between home and work. Nothing unusual about it. At least, not before. The first time she noticed him, it was not because he moved. It was because he didn't. Most dogs would react in some way. A glance, a shift, a step forward. But this one remained still, almost as if he had been placed there and forgotten. She slowed her steps slightly, not enough to stop. Just enough to look. His eyes were open, watching, but not asking. There was no fear in him, but there was something else, something quieter, something that stayed with her long after she had walked past. The next day, he was there again. Same place, same stillness. She noticed it more clearly this time. And something about that repetition made it harder to ignore. People passed him like he was part of the background, like a stone, or a shadow. But he wasn't. He was waiting. For what? She did not know. But waiting has a certain presence. It lingers. And slowly, it began to follow her thoughts. Days turned into a quiet pattern. He remained. And the world continued moving around him. Cars passed. People talked. Footsteps came and went. But very few stopped. Sometimes, someone would toss a small piece of food in his direction. Not out of cruelty, but not out of connection either. Just something quick, something easy. He would eat it slowly, not rushing, as if even hunger had learned patience. Rain came one afternoon. Soft at first, then heavier. The ground darkened. The air cooled. Still, he did not leave. He adjusted his position slightly, lowering his body closer to the ground. His fur grew damp, clinging to his thin frame. People ran past, covering themselves. No one stayed. No one noticed that he stayed too. Time moves differently for those who wait. And he had become very familiar with time. She began to slow down more often, not stopping, not yet, but noticing. That was where it began, not with action, but with attention. She started to recognize small things, the way he lifted his head only when certain cars passed, the way his eyes followed movement but never chased it, the way he returned to the exact same spot every single day. It was not random. There was something intentional in it, something that did not make sense but also did not feel meaningless. One morning, she paused, just for a moment, long enough to stand still. He looked at her, not with expectation, not with fear, just awareness. And in that quiet exchange, something shifted. Very slightly, but enough. Some things are not chosen quickly. The next day, she stopped completely. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Her steps slowed, then ended. She stood a few feet away. The dog watched her. Still calm. Still quiet. She did not move closer immediately. Instead, she lowered herself slightly, creating space rather than closing it. Time passed in silence. Then, she reached into her bag. A small piece of food. She placed it gently on the ground, not too close, not too far. And then, she waited. He did not rush forward. He looked at it, then at her, then back at the food. Carefully, slowly, he stood, each step measured, as if testing something unseen. He reached it, paused, and then ate. That was all. No sudden change, no dramatic moment, just a small step. But sometimes, small steps carry everything. Days passed, but they felt different now. She returned. Not every hour, not every moment, but enough. Enough for him to notice. Enough for him to notice. Enough for something to grow. He began to stand sooner when she arrived, not rushing, but ready. And one day, when she turned to leave, he followed, not closely, just enough to stay in sight. She noticed, paused, looked back, and for the first time, he did not stop. He did not return to the corner again, not because he forgot, but because he no longer needed to wait there. The road remained the same. The sounds did not change, but his place in it had. Now he rested somewhere quieter, safer, and when he closed his eyes, it was no longer out of exhaustion. It was rest, true rest. Some things take time, and some waits are not empty after all. Some lives change slowly, not in a single moment, but in quiet steps. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to share it. And if you believe that even the quietest lives deserve to be seen, stay with us for more stories like this.